It started like so many other nights, with a casual conversation that should have been harmless. We were sitting in the living room, the soft hum of the TV filling the background, when she tilted her head, a teasing smirk playing on her lips. "Seriously?" she said, laughing lightly. "You're jealous of my guy friends?" I froze, caught off guard by the question. I had never been controlling, never tried to isolate her from her friendships, but there was something in her tone that felt off, like a challenge rather than a joke. At first I tried to laugh it off, telling myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was just playful banter. Maybe I was imagining things. But deep down, a small knot of unease settled in my stomach. There was a familiarity to the way she asked that question, a kind of casual deflection that always came before a lie, before something I didn't know. I ignored the feeling at first, convincing myself I trusted her, that our marriage wasn't fragile enough for suspicion. That night, though, I noticed her texting constantly. She would glance at her phone, quickly hide the screen when I looked over. I didn't confront her immediately. I didn't want to give her the chance to play innocent or to convince me I was paranoid. I started observing, quietly, mentally taking note of patterns, the late-night messaging, the little flinches whenever I came near, the subtle excuses about work or friends that didn't quite add up. A week passed, and the tension grew. Her words from that night kept echoing in my mind. "Seriously? You're jealous of my guy friends?" They weren't just words. They were a mask for something she thought I wouldn't see. I began to notice that she was being far too careful with her phone, deleting messages quickly, taking calls in other rooms, laughing at texts while pretending to read work emails. Something was happening behind my back, and I needed to know the truth. One night, after she went to bed, I couldn't sleep. My curiosity and suspicion finally pushed me to act. I checked her phone when she left it unlocked, carefully scrolling through messages, seeing names and conversations that made my stomach turn. She had been texting several male friends, flirty texts, suggestive jokes, even plans to meet late at night. It wasn't just harmless banter. It wasn't casual friendship. She had been cultivating attention from other men while pretending our marriage was strong and intact. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. She had been lying all along, gaslighting me with that question about jealousy to make me doubt myself, to make me feel insecure for having normal boundaries. And worse, she was fully aware of the effect her deception would have. The casual smirk, the teasing tone, it was all calculated. She wasn't careless, she was manipulative. I spent the next few days thinking about what to do. I didn't want to confront her in anger. I didn't want a fight that would let her play the victim or twist the situation. Instead, I began documenting everything. Messages, screenshots, timestamps, patterns. I needed to have clarity, not only for myself, but in case things escalated further. Every flirty joke, every late-night plan became evidence of the betrayal she had been hiding for months. The night I decided to confront her, I waited until she returned home from a supposed girls' night out. I watched her carefully, noticing the way she moved, how she tried to appear casual, laughing with friends on the phone even as I prepared for the confrontation. She had no idea that I had seen everything. She didn't know I knew about the texts, the plans, the deception. And that silence gave me power, the kind of calm authority that comes from someone who has the truth in their hands. When I finally spoke, I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply showed her the messages. Her smile vanished immediately, replaced by a flash of panic and disbelief. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered. "I was just joking. You're overreacting." I shook my head, holding up the evidence, letting the weight of her actions sink in. The casual jokes, the flirty texts, the secret meetings, it was all there. She couldn't spin it, couldn't deflect, couldn't gaslight me this time. Her panic grew with every screenshot I showed her. She tried to justify, to excuse, to say I was reading things out of context, but I remained calm, deliberate. I explained exactly how her actions had betrayed the trust in our marriage, how the lies, the secrecy, the manipulation were unacceptable. She realized finally that her charm and wit, the very tools she used to mask her infidelity, were powerless against the truth I now held. Over the following days, I set firm boundaries. I refused to tolerate her dishonesty or flippant justifications. I made it clear that our marriage could not survive manipulation or betrayal. She tried to negotiate, to charm, to pretend that nothing serious had happened, but my resolve remained unshaken. The casual question about jealousy, the one that had once seemed playful, was now the key to understanding her deceit. She had tested me, and I had seen through it. Eventually, the confrontation escalated into serious decisions about separation. I consulted a lawyer quietly, prepared to reclaim my life from someone who had repeatedly violated trust. She continued to act as if she were clever, as if her flirting and manipulation were harmless, but each attempt only reinforced the truth. She could no longer manipulate me. Weeks later, she realized the full consequences of her actions. She had assumed I would remain blind, gullible, or patient forever. But the texts, the evidence, and my calm, deliberate response showed her that her games had limits. The casual jokes, the flirtations, the attempts to gaslight me, all of it had led to this inevitable moment of accountability. The betrayal had been painful, yes, but the satisfaction came from clarity, from seeing the truth emerge and refusing to participate in her deception any longer. She had tried to manipulate my emotions, to twist my perception of jealousy into something irrational. I had turned her manipulation against itself, not with cruelty, but with awareness, preparation, and firm boundaries. By the time the divorce was finalized, she had no leverage left, no power to charm, gaslight, or deceive me further. I had reclaimed my dignity, my peace, and my life. She had tested me with that casual question, but the truth, once fully revealed, proved that I was no longer someone to be manipulated or toyed with. Her words, "Seriously? You're jealous of my guy friends?" had been a warning, a glimpse into the manipulation she thought she could get away with. But I had turned the tables. I had seen, waited, and acted deliberately. And in that process, I realized that sometimes the most powerful response to betrayal isn't anger or revenge. It's clarity, calm, and the refusal to let someone else's lies dictate your life. By the end, she understood. Too late. And I walked away, stronger, wiser, and free from the deception that had once threatened to undermine everything I valued.